And we are live. Mic level looks good. Thanks for joining Gathering. How you doing this morning? Just getting up. Well, I've been up for a while. I was actually up early. I was up late last night playing Diablo 4. And I was just, as my usual morning kind of thing is, I check what the prices are to see if there's any deals. And I know a lot of people are going to jump on me, but those chaos packs are so juicy. I mean, $1.28, and they're about 9 or 10 cents lower if you go over and buy them on Hive Engine. Actually, they're just looking so good. I know you've been opening them on your $10 account, so just in the back of my head, also keep my eye on land. I usually start off by going over, what was on the town hall, but we didn't have a town hall due to holiday, so we'll just have to go. I think the biggest news item is going to be the 5-year anniversary event that's going on that everybody's talking about. So I did a video on that, a little bit of a brief reaction yesterday. Gathering says I will pick up some more chaos packs later. Yeah, it's my brother's pinging me on that, texting me on that. It's like, man, they just look too juicy. I think I'm going to pick up some. I have to agree for the price. I mean, a lot of people have done the videos on where you compare the price of the pack and the value of the cards you're actually getting out of the pack. And I've got to think at this point, you're getting more than $1.20 worth out of a pack of chaos, especially for a lower end account for people that are new playing. It brings a lot of value to their account versus, some people starting right now, they probably can't even fathom what it's like to play $4, $5, $6 a pack like we were just a year ago, so. Gathering says, going probably for beta untamed commons next for my $10 account. Chaos pack was just too tempting. Yeah, I agree. I love beta. I love alpha too. It's the card collector in us, right? So I got my alpha this week as well. But that's just from a collector's point of view. I've gone through the commons and the alphas, and I'm in the rares now, so the prices are starting to pick up a little bit. But I'll keep going until the prices get obnoxious, so. But like you pointed out in a few of your videos, the betas bring good value as far as upping the percentage you make on each match. And there are some cool beta cards that are, you have newer cards that have similar abilities and everything, but it's cool to play betas as well. So, and there are just a few in there are a good amount in the Untamed that bring good value to the table. We could go into, just look at them. Let's look at Untamed. Let's just look at the commons and the rares, keeping the lower price ones here. If anybody else, if you join, we don't really have a whole lot of topics because there was not a town hall this week. However, there is a lot of on the board. If you watched my video yesterday, there's a lot of action going on. We can take a look at how the 5-year anniversary contest is going. Like I said in my previous video, it's just mind-boggling how much DEC is being burnt. I went in with what I felt was a big amount, which with me, it was about $150 worth, right? And these people are just throwing millions in there, which is mind-boggling to me, just your average Joe, right? So Gathering says, what is the best way to add funds to Hive? Ha ha ha. Yeah, see, that's one of the big things, right? That's one of the big things, that stumbling blocks for new players, that I think that as a game they have to overcome to make this game have mass appeal. And by mass appeal, I mean to people outside the crypto We want to be able to get the people that are playing Magic the Gathering, people that are playing Pokemon and stuff like that, and bringing it in. And it's always been, since I've started playing, one of the biggest hurdles is that whole, hey, how do I get on Hive Engine? Hey, KGM, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. No problem. So anyway, you know what? At this point, I have been using the tool. Let's see here. So you can go in and you can click Get DEC or Get SPS. It works the same way. It works through this tool, the Transact tool, and it's just like when you set it up. If you haven't set it up, it's kind of like setting up any other crypto account where it requires verification and everything, and it works through it works off of a credit card and stuff, and some credit cards are friendly with it and some credit cards aren't. I had to jump through hoops to get my credit union credit card to use it, but if you can go through and use it smoothly, it allows you a way to buy DEC or buy SPS. And when you buy it, then it comes into game and you can transfer it into Hive Engine and then trade it for, whatever you want to trade it for. Buy, sell, trade. You could trade it directly. I've sold it for Hive. I think I haven't done the math, but it's a little bit easier if you just use the swap feature like you've done on some of your videos. But you could swap it for Hive and then just buy the packs, or maybe you can just, let's see if you can swap it for, well, first of all, let's see what they're called. They're called Chaos. I forgot. Let's just see. I haven't tried it. Yeah, you could swap. You could take and you could buy SPS or DEC in game using the Transact, and then you could just do direct swap for whatever you wanted in Hive Engine. And I just happened to note that the packs are going for a little bit cheaper on Hive Engine than they are in game. But this Transact feature makes it easy, about as easy as it's going to be. But I've always said that, this is one of the biggest hurdles, and I'm surprised they haven't put more effort into maybe getting the Transact up, because I can remember before that was even up. And here a few months ago there was a problem with it, right? You go to use it, and when they announced the numbers for the SPS staking, everybody was going mad on buying SPS and everything, and the high blockchain locked up or went down or something or other. I lost like $30-35 on a transaction, because as soon as I heard them say that on the town hall, I went in and I just put in an order for $35 worth of SPS. Gone in the ether, right? So there are, just like any other thing, if you're new to crypto and you're doing exchanges on blockchains, just be ready to lose some once in a while. I always say to new people, do small increments. Don't do big bulk increments of like $1,000 or something like that. Do small increments, so therefore if you lose something, it's just going to be minimal. Yes, on the blockchain you can always go back and track it down, but if it's gone, it's gone. It's in the ether. In this case, I put $35 in through Transact. It was supposed to buy Hive, and then the tool trades it on the back end for whatever token you're looking for, SPS or DEC. Well, it bought the Hive, and they can prove that on the blockchain, but the trade over to DEC or in this case SPS never happened, and there's just nothing they can do with it. So be careful, do your due diligence, but that's in a long form how I do it. Now you can also buy other cryptocurrencies and trade them into Hive Engine, and then swap them around as well. But that's and it's what we had to do back in the day, right? Which was a major pain in the butt. And Gathering says, I usually send Litecoin from Coinbase. Yeah, we used to do that too, but it's just a major pain. You can add, KGM says, you can add a card to PayPal and use that to get credit also. Yeah, yeah, credit is very easy to use. You can use PayPal, the credits, but we were discussing being able to trade over and use it on Hive Engine because sometimes on Hive Engine, like in this case, the Chaos Packs are just a little bit cheaper, like 8-10 cents cheaper. So he had just asked, you know, how I go about that. But yes, you can. I do use PayPal for credits, and for my standard day-to-day, hey, I want to go in and buy a card or something or other on Peak Monsters, that's what I do. I just use straight up credits. But if you're interested in getting DEC or SPS, you have to jump through a few hoops. And that has to do with them not wanting... There are so many federal regulations. There's regulations everywhere, but here in the States, there's so many federal regulations about what makes you a bank, what makes you a credit lending institution and stuff. And I can see why they're tiptoeing around those. They don't want to make certain changes, make certain additions to the game, because then they're considered a credit institution or something or other, and then they have to follow this whole long list of other regulations and everything. And my camera, I waved my hand and my camera turned on its auto tracking feature, and it just went weird. So just a minute. Sorry about that. And it's not cooperating. Sorry guys, technical malfunction. Guess you'll just have to do with the top of my head for right now. Once again, sorry, technical malfunction. Yeah, I don't think you can, and that's the whole point. There's this, well, Gathering says, I was trying to figure out how to convert credits to DEC. You can't. The whole point is there's a separate credit, and that's considered in-game. That has nothing to do with being any sort of being able to trade on a blockchain or anything. And so that's like the division between being a cryptocurrency and an in-game currency. And they don't want to make it so you can trade them over, because then they cross that line to being something that falls under a financial institution. And once again, I am sorry for my you know what? Right before the web stream, I was having a problem with the camera. I had to reboot it, and now it's just giving me problems. So let's just keep talking. Sorry. I'm just going to turn the camera off. I'm just going to turn the camera off for now. Sorry, I had to fix that camera. I don't want to fool around with it anymore. We can just talk without looking at my ugly mug. So yeah, so we covered that. You can't trade credits to the EC. Richard says, hi, Bronze Dragon. What cards are you buying for land? Okay, I'm going to try to catch up here. Richard, I started out, and I was buying maxed out max legendaries from Chaos Legion and this kind of era. But then I changed over due to gathering, doing the numbers, and I changed over to gold foil max level commons. They were a bit cheaper and yield more points. So for the most part, most of my lands are going to have gold foil commons like this, maxed out, which should give me about 10,000 points, production points per land. So if you're going into it and trying to decide, I haven't looked at the math lately, but I do know that if you went with rares, they would cost about roughly twice as much as the gold foil commons. However, they did also yield twice as much. Okay. You know, there's that. You have to decide which way you want to go. Now, as soon as you get above rares, then the cost just goes up exponentially, and it's not really worth it. So I think at this point, the way I'm picking is either gold foil commons or rares, maxed out, and then go with that. And also, you have to decide, because, you know, the more production points you have, the more you got to feed them too. So it's like a double-edged sword. Yes, I'm making more, but on the backside, I have to pay more in grain or whatever you're feeding them. So that's roughly the answer for that. KGM says, stocking up on alpha cards for collecting and utility running. Yeah, I mean, I think all of us who've been into card collecting over the years know that I think alpha is going to be the best bet as far as collecting. Not necessarily from a usage standpoint. Obviously, there's some that have good usage, but mostly it's just because they were the first expansion. Well, it wasn't an expansion. It's the first set of cards. So that's why I'm into buying alphas. Like I had said earlier, I do buy one alpha per week. Let's see here. Yeah, this is on the right. Let's search by alpha. So these are my current alphas. Just kind of on the same topic you are. I've gone through the commons. I have all the commons, and now I'm on rares. This week's purchase was a Silver Shield Paladin, and I believe it cost me about $2.30. So the price is climbing. I intend to keep this going until the price just gets obnoxious, and then I'll have to make a decision whether to stop or keep going. Let's see here. Trying to catch up. Gathering says, great move, KGM. I am long-term bullish on alpha packs. Yeah, I mean, I think that alpha packs or beta packs for that matter, if you get one of those packs, I'd be hard-pressed to do any openings. Just hold the pack. That's my opinion. Because I guess the percentage chances of opening a pack and having something in there that is worth more than just the pack itself unopened are very small. So that's just a investment type thing. Richard says, I'm looking for utility for land and potential long-term value. So here's two different things, right? I think the utility for land, unless you're talking about buying alpha or beta cards, the alpha and beta cards do have a 5 and 10 times value for staking on land. So they would be good for staking on land. They're also going to be exponentially more expensive, and they would also be good on the collecting side, I believe, because, logic says, hey, alpha and beta cards are probably going to be worth the most, right? Other than the newer sets that have like legendaries that are very popular and good for play. Two different values, right? One value lies in the scarcity of alpha and beta. And you know what I did? Let's see. I forgot to turn on the light, but it does not matter because my camera's freaking out today. So yeah, I think we're talking about two different things. I think that you've got to consider two different buckets. Cards I'm going to use for land and that are going to give me good production value on land, and then cards that I want to invest in for long term. And like I said, I'm not an investment advisor. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I usually go about it from the aspect of, hey, what's going to make my deck stronger? Obviously, I do want it to go up in value, you know, as we all do, but I mostly look at what makes my deck stronger without spending an obnoxious amount of money. I try to get good value. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that I price pick. I do you know, pick from the bottom cards that have very strong play value versus their price. So. Gathering says, to Richard's point, gold foil legendary cards give best PP to DEC, but they are pricey. Yeah, I agree. I think I kind of just went on that. Yeah, as soon as I saw Gathering's logic on that on a few of his videos, I'm like, hey, you can't argue with the logic, right? Because he did the numbers. So that's why I switched over to using commons. On some of my lands, I may switch over to use gold foil rares, but then you're talking about basically doubling the price. But I still think it's a logical supposition. But once above, like I said, once you get above rares, it just the price is too exponential for whatever value you're going to get on the land, as far as what extra PP you're going to make on the land. I think the value really lies in commons or rares. Good morning, Voazina. Thanks for dropping by. Appreciate it. And Gathering says, only way I can think of it is to buy a card with credits and sell it right away to get back these. Yeah, Gathering, I have tried that. But you do end up losing. You end up losing roughly like 15 to 20%. You're better at doing the math than I am, but you have the fees on both sides, and so I'll just leave it at, yes, I've done that, but I try not to do that anymore because you end up losing. So Richard says, thinking of buying Fiends as people need them and price is low. I love Fiends. I've bought all level 1s. And let's go to cards. Well, let's go to cards. So I have a full set of the level 1s, due mostly to the fact that I don't play in the upper levels where I would need a level 4. I could see where the value would be in you know, buying maxed out. If you can find a good deal, obviously this point goes to it. If you can find a good deal per BCX, why not just buy a maxed out version, right? But I bought level 1s. At level 2, they pick up 1 speed, and at level 3, they pick up a life, an extra life. I just don't see the value in sitting here in the middle. It seems to me almost like you either get a level 1 or you get a level 4. I do think they would rent okay. I don't have extras to rent, though. I do know Archmage uses mine commonly, and whenever I play, I use them commonly as well. And the rental market is really in the pits right now, so I don't know. I'm not making much from rentals these days. And Gathering backs that up, saying Fiends are always great to have. Yeah, I mean, what's not great about a 0 casting cost card? And also, each of the Fiend has a different ability it offers at level 4 if you happen to play in Champ. And also, just kind of an off point here, for those of us who do play Splinterforge, like this Soul Fiend at max level does have swiftness, which, as we all know, is the key ingredient to playing Splinterforge. You want to be as fast as possible. So Let's see here. Trying to catch up. Gathering says 10,000 points per land plus your 10,000 splinter bonus, so you will get 11,000 points. Yeah, plus I have common totem, so that's another 10%. So, yeah, I think that's a good place to sit for me. And like I said, for my strategy, if you've watched a few of my videos, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get 2 lands in an area where one land is going to be producing enough food for both lands, and then the other land is producing whatever it's good at. I have a couple magic lands, so they will probably be producing research. So the food growing land will produce enough for both of those. So hopefully I don't have to go on the market and buy grain. That's my plan, for better or worse. Obviously plans change as things go active and we see how it's working. But I just didn't want. I did a whole video or two about where I talk about how much it's going to cost to run a land if you're not producing grain, right? If you're just mining SPS, or if you're mining like the research or whatever it may be, you're going to have to buy your food, which is going to be grain up front, and people are going to be surprised until that market gets up and off the ground and people are actually producing a lot of food. It's going to be 1 SPS per grain, which is going to be expensive, because if you're fielding 10,000 PP on a land, that's 10,000 grain that you're going to need on a daily basis, or maybe hourly basis. I have to go back and review the numbers. Anyway, it's a lot. So KGM says, I bought and opened 1 alpha pack for $135 and got $10 worth. Should have held on to it. You could get a life-changing card in them though. Yeah, I agree. But it's like this same argument for any card game, right? I've seen it time and time and time again where, there's always going to be that one guy that gets lucky and pulls some, just a reference to Magic the Gathering, buy a beta pack and pull a Mox or pull a Black Lotus or something or other, pull that really nice card. But for every guy that does, there's going to be 100 or 1,000 other people that pull a bunch of land and a bunch of crap, right? So I still think that if you want some alphas and betas, and this is my advice for people who start as well, the idea is not to buy packs. You want to buy singles. So if you have an alpha or beta that you want, buy that single. Because chances are if you spend $150, $200 on a pack, you're not going to get it. Chances are, like KGM says, you're going to get $10 worth of cards. And you're going to wah. So Richard says, what are your thoughts on land prices? I think they will increase, but they are expensive to run, DEC cards, etc., which may keep prices lower. I said originally, because I've always liked the idea of playing the land game, right? And I've always talked about it ever since they started talking about it. That's why I'm kind of going in a little bit deeper than what I originally thought. But I think that overall land prices, let's see, let's go to Splinterforge over here and let's go to buy and the land market. Okay, so as we all know, these two guys, well, there's a third guy now, Giggle, but Crypto Boggy and Kush Hig have been competing for the lowest price. And I want you all to consider this, okay? Because there's more to price on a land. I was explaining it to my wife. The best explanation I could come up with is that you can get a good price land, but if it's in a bad neighborhood, you not necessarily want to be there, right? So it might cost me a little bit more for a piece of land in a nicer neighborhood, meaning that you have people in the plots around you that are staking and increasing the value of their land, bringing up the value, just like moving into a nicer neighborhood, bringing up the value of the neighborhood so that you're all making more, and the castle is putting, whoever owns the castle, whoever owns the keep in that area is putting into the game. Now, the point I'm trying to make is these people it appears to me, my opinion, is that it looks like they bought these large portions of land. They came in, they opened them up, they claimed them, they kept the best ones for themselves, and then they're selling off the commons because they see how much it's going to cost to run them. But what's going to happen is if you buy one of these lower cost lands, in my opinion, obviously everything's fluid right now, but you might get in a situation where, one, you can't get rid of the land if you want to sell it because nobody wants to buy one in that area. And two, the person in that area that owns the keep or the castle may not be contributing, and the land just keeps going down in value and you're not making anything out of it. Obviously, there are a lot of variables going on, but that's another thing to look at, because ultimately, when the lands first started going down in price, I thought, well, hey, what if I just swoop in here and just like buy 10 together and just like, farm wood or, ore or something or other. But then I started thinking about this, and there's a few other YouTubers that were extrapolating on this. So I think it's a valid idea that the price of the land kind of equate it with real estate. So it's just another thing to think about, right? So I am looking for another piece of land, but I'm primarily going to look for a piece of land with the building and a box on it. So those prices are still going for 52, not in my area, in the areas I'm looking for. But, it's all still up in the air, but there are more variables than just going in and saying, I'm going to buy the cheapest land, because if you buy the cheapest land and you're in a bad neighborhood and nobody else is producing or investing in the land, then that land's not going to make anything and it's not going to be worth anything. So just something else to think about. As far as the land prices go, I've always thought that the commons will probably settle out just above where the game actually sold them for, $20 to $30, right? I'm thinking that the commons will probably settle out in the $30 range, something like that. And I'm talking long term here. People are pushing and shoving and buying this land up front, and people will buy and sell and trade. And I got to think that the commons are going to come in at the $30 range, somewhere like that. And the rares won't be too much more expensive, because keep in mind, a rare standard land doesn't give you that much more than a common does. So and Gathering says, I will never open an alpha, but want as many packs as I can afford. Yeah, I would agree. I do think out of everything else, there's so many different things you can spend your money on in this game that I think one of the solid things I can say is an alpha pack is going to be a good investment. I hate saying it because I'm not giving investment advice, right? But out of anything, you would think that that would probably be worth the most. The only thing that would deprecate that would be the game, going in the trash can, and then everything's worth nothing. So Gathering says, I think unclaimed land plots may be a good hold, especially when we get fewer and fewer unclaimed plots remaining. Possibly, but then that brings up the whole topic of I need to pull up the announcement. The announcement that I made, I passed this along in my video yesterday, but they had added an additional 3 days for the starter packages. Now they did state that. Okay, so now you have until June 6th. My whole point here is that if you unclaim, you cannot take advantage of the starter packages. Now, they did state that they will probably be available in the future, but it's also probably going to cost you more. So it's another thing to think about, because when I'm looking to buy a land, I'm looking for some of those starter packages on the land to offer me more value, right? So, Dennis, welcome. Thanks for dropping by. He says, I keep buying SPS. Out of all Splinterlands asset, it has the best potential to go 10x. I think so. I think you're right. Obviously, DEC is going up in value, but they've got a hard cap on it, and they have features in game to where you can burn SPS to get DEC if it ever goes above the cap. So it can't do any 10xing. I mean, at most, it's going to, just go up a little bit. So this is today's. I also, while we're on this page, this is Splinter Guide. I've been using it lately. This is Hawks21's website. Him and another guy developed this, or he, I'm not sure. He's not the developer, but it's part of his, what I, tongue-tied. I heard him talk about, so I started using it. So anyway, this gives a nice pane of glass that you can see all the standard stuff we like to look at, right? So I agree with your comment, but I also wanted to kind of reference in relation to where it's standing. So SPS is still down for the month. But it's climbing. Now DEC is what I was mainly interested in, not from the investment point, but from the point of the 5-year anniversary. It was interesting to see that it kind of peaked out. I guess it's logical, right? It peaked out on the first 2 days of the contest, when everybody was buying a bunch to burn. And I was wondering if it was going to keep climbing, but apparently not. So it's down a little bit, but we're just talking about fractions, just fractions of a cent here. So these graphs make it look, I think, a lot bigger than what it actually is. So Gathering says, I agree, along with vouchers, I think, since they are now around 5 cents. Yeah, vouchers have always been kind of I haven't bought any vouchers. At this point, I have like 104. I just use them once in a while to buy packs, but I've never found the need to buy vouchers. I think that that's another thing that they need to bring value to, especially for all the people that invested money to get the trying to think of it. My brother bought one, the licenses. So all the people that invested all the money to buy validator node licenses, and they're making the vouchers up to this point have not had a whole lot of value. So it would be good if they gave some value to the vouchers. Trying to catch up here. Gathering says, wish I could get a hold of Nate and ask him to swap a plot in Ravenwood with me so we could both be in Tract 1. Yeah, I'm waiting. I consider that a good area to be in, and I've been looking forward to somebody, there's a few tracts, there's a few plots here for sale, but I'm not necessarily sure about buying a swamp, and I think some of these, the jungles that are for sale are kind of overpriced. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, I'm kind of interested in seeing what he's going to do, but he owns a bunch in this whole area. So I do want to pick up one more plot, obviously to go along with what I was talking about, having 2 plots in one area, one to produce food, and the one plot I have is magic, so the other one's going to be the one that produces food. So hopefully he has claimed them, most of them. Some of them down here he has not claimed, but he does own a large portion of this whole area. So I did see that he's selling off some plots in some other areas, so we'll see. But I consider this a good area to be in, since he's one of the developers, and seems like a very good percentage chance that he's going to develop the lands and make it into a good area to live, so to speak. Gathering says, grain is going to be needed in each tract. You don't want to transport grain across regions because of possible fees. So grain producing lands will be needed everywhere. I agree with it. Like I said, I made a whole video on it, and I think it's going to hit people hard. I think, back to my plan of having, a plot in every area, or maybe two, depending upon how much I go in on land. One plot for every other plot, because basically one plot can produce enough food for two. You might end up a little bit short, or you might need to stake a little bit nicer cards on that food producing land to make enough for two, but you know what I mean. So yes, I think for better or for worse, I think that the amount that food is going to cost and be of import, the grain, is going to hit people, slap a lot of people across the face. And yes, I agree. You don't want to be, we're already going to be taxed. You don't want to be taxed with that extra transportation fee as well, and whatever time it takes to get your grain from here to there. Gathering goes on to say, so true about buying cards over opening packs. I learned that lesson after years of opening Magic and sports packs. Yep, I agree. We all, well, I agree. I learned it in Magic as well. If there are super cheap land plots, you may be also able to buy them and use for storage buildings depending on what you need to spend for monster staking. That's true, but like I said, there's variables there as well, because we don't know anything about the storage because it hasn't been talked about yet until 2.0, right? So it may do you no good to have storage in the middle of another area where you don't have any other plots, and may be a quote-unquote bad neighborhood, so to speak. But like I said, we've talked about this before. It may also be good to have just random lands where you have just like one plot of land somewhere and you just use it for storage. And they've talked about this idea before, in the fact that you charge other people to store their grain there. So you're not necessarily doing anything on it, but people are paying you to use your land as storage. So that's still yet to be seen, and no details have gone around that until we start hearing about 2.0. Of course, 1.5 has to be live before we start hearing about 2.0. So Richard says, can you delegate land to other guild members? I don't think so. I have not heard any information about delegating land. Most other cards in the game you can delegate. You can delegate cards. You can even delegate SPS now. But I've not heard about delegating land. Dennis says, I got 5 plots in 133.02. So we're in 133 here. So 02 is right here. Yeah. 02 is this area right here. So yeah, yeah, you're right in the same area as Gathering. Gathering has the very first plot in, let's go back. So Gathering has the very first plot in 02. I have the very first plot in 01. I hit that as soon as it opened up. And then Nate came right behind me and claimed the rest of it. So I think we're good as long as anybody who wants to be involved is in this area here. You can, trade, buy, sell, send stuff back and forth without any extra transportation. And it remains to be seen if Nate throws some stuff up there for sale, I'd probably be interested, especially if he had, which I figure he added the, building in a box and other stuff to it. But he may just keep them all and stake them all out. So we'll see, though. Let's see here. So yeah, Dennis and Gathering have several in 02 on 133. I'm still trying to sell my one over here in the northeast or northwest. Nobody's bitten on it yet, and I'm not down pricing. I'm not. I have this little piece of desert over here, and I put it at 70 bucks, and it's just been sitting there. It has a building in a box on it. I'm not bringing it down in price. It's going to stay there. If it doesn't sell, I'm just going to stake it out, and I'm going to use it for storage or whatever, like we've been talking about, because I'm not going to lose that much money on it. It'll just sit there and it'll do whatever it does. I'm also in Tostrington over here with my brother. Gathering says, wish they had a land trade chat channel on Splinterlands, kind of like guild chat. Yeah, I also wish, kind of on that same thought, I also wish that they had a trade, just like you can trade in WoW or some other game, where it's a tool where you can say, okay, I'll trade you this card or this land, and then you get both items and whatever the trade is on both sides on one screen, and then both people have to agree to the trade, and then once you both agree to it, then you just swap. This takes the whole randomness of, can I trust this guy to send it to me, just out of the equation. I don't know how hard it is to build a tool like that, but I think that's something that should have been in the game a long time ago, considering it's a trading card game, right? Alistios, thanks for dropping by. Hey, good to see you. Dennis says, I would keep it because mountain is somewhere rare land type. Mine is mine over here is not a mountain. Mine is a well, over there it was a desert, so I'm not exactly sure. Somebody had posted the other day on one of my other streams a list of what each natural land type will produce, and for the life of me I just could not find where that was listed, because it's not, I don't see it in the white paper. But I don't know what a desert's going to be producing. But over in Tostrington, I have a rare lake, and then I bought a plains over here to produce the food for it. So yeah, Listios, you jumped in. We're doing a bunch of land talk. Yeah, I think it's going to be great too. I mean, I think a lot of us have been, since they mentioned land, I mean, since land was for sale, I've been interested in it. I think that they've put a lot on land, and by that I mean they've it's went from a basic, hey, buy land and make some money off of it or produce it. They've fleshed out, but a lot of it's a lot of extra DEC involved, a lot of extra staking of cards, a lot of basically money involved. And I do think that we have seen some people that bought large portions of land that are now coming to the realization that they don't want to sink all that money into being able to produce on 100 or 1,000 plots, that it's just so expensive, and that's why I think we're seeing a lot of sell-offs. So Alistios says he's got 10 plots, and they're in 2704 area, 04 area. So just kind of, since anybody, bring up what you want to talk about, but we're kind of finishing the hour off. We've got another 12 minutes. Just to kind of bring you up to date, I have been playing Terracore. This is a game that I did a video about, that if anybody's interested, that the actual Yixin who made Golem Overlord actually came out of Terracore and is a big owner in Terracore, and because Terracore was out first, and the code for these games is open source. I was talking to the developer of Terracore, and then Yixin made Golem Overlord. So they're very similar. However, I've been playing Terracore for a week now, and they do have specific differences. So I can see where Yixin came out of playing Terracore and said, oh, I'd like to make a game, but I want these things to be different. Alistio says, from what I've calculated, out of these 10 lands I own, I will use 6 of them just to feed the best other 4 until they implement better food and crafting equipment. Yeah, I mean, that's basically the same thing I'm doing. Doing half and half, and I'll see where I get. Obviously, we got to be flexible, but I don't think you want to be in the situation where you're just, for the first month or something or other, having to buy grain at 1 DEC per grain, because that's hugely expensive. You know, I haven't done the math lately, but when I did that video here a month ago or so, it was just like, I don't know, $20 a day or some obnoxious price that I just cannot see doing. So that's why I came up with, you know, buying the extra land to produce food, which is what Alistios is saying. I was interested in trying Terracore, having a lot of skin in Golem Overlord. I feel like would be diluting my investment to play 2 games that are so similar. Yeah, I agreed to play Terracore because the developer asked me to. And I had several people on the show when I started playing Golem Overlord saying, hey, you should play Terracore. Terracore was around first. And the code is open source, so that's kind of what led to Golem Overlord. There are some specific differences, and I haven't got in real deep yet. I'm just still a noob. The idea is the same. You have your stash, you have engineering, which is very much like scavenger golems now. It relates to how much you can produce. Stash size in this game is very similar to Golem Overlord. However, it also increases when you increase your stash. It increases the dodge and the luck, which helps you out when you're being attacked. Favor is a stat that helps you when you're attacking. As you can see, I'm not running an attack build. But if I were, I would be increasing my damage and my favor. I have been increasing my defense. And I have increased my engineering, which helps how much you produce. In this game does have NFTs now, which is where Yixen in Golem Overlord is working towards, right? So let me see. So this is just an example of like the different items you can buy in the Terracore Hub. I have bought a ship, but I haven't bought anything else. And you can just see that they're bought and sold in Hive. I believe you can buy them in Scrap, which is the primary token, but you buy them with Hive. You have to have Hive in your wallet to buy. And like this double barrel handgun increases your damage by +1. And Flux is a secondary token in this game, and it's used in the latter game. But I mean, you can find items, excuse me, you can find items that increase all your different stats, really. I bought a ship that increases my defense. So but yeah, I agree. After seeing what a lot of people are doing, I would say that I probably am not going hard in Golem Overlord. I'm playing, and I like playing, but I have not sunk any money into it, to be straight up with you. The first 2 weeks of the game, after that, I'm just rolling everything over, collecting it, reinvesting. I do still pull out 1 part per claim, and I sell that off, and I've been putting in Terracore, and I've been buying SPS with it and everything. But I do agree with your statement that if you're going to go in and play one game, play one game. They're very similar. I will tell you one big thing that I found in Terracore is that when you're attacking, there's no loss. Like, so in Golem Overlord, if you make an attack and you fail, then you are charged a certain amount of part, right, to repair or whatever. In Terracore, it's not. There's no charge for that. The attacks are limited by number though, and the attacks. So like you start out with 8. You might be able to get more battles going forward, but they regenerate it like 1 per 4 hours or something like that. Right off in the game, also instead of an 8-hour claim, the claim is 4 hours. So. Listios goes on to say, so far, what I don't enjoy about Golem Overlord is the constant change where you can never settle for a way to build your setup and constantly getting challenged with new changes, still doing not bad so far in Golem Overlord. Yeah, but both games, they still fall under that heading of alpha or beta. And that's how they're going to get out of that, right? Because they come out right up front and say, hey, we're still in beta. Any changes, obviously, we've seen a lot of massive changes in Golem Overlord. Terracore, I'm just catching on to because I've only been playing a week, but he's very upfront about the changes he makes too, and he puts out a document whenever there's changes. Yeah, there's been some radical changes in Golem Overlord, I agree. And it's very costly to run a farming build, which is basically what I do now. I'm paying, 10 to 20 to 30 part per 8-hour cycle just to keep my golems up, right? Depending upon where I'm sitting at. Yeah, Listios. Yeah, he says it's on his list as far as Yixon says, as far as incorporating NFTs into the game. I just thought I'd mention it as far as one of the big differences in Terracore. However, he did say, Crypto Gnome, who is the developer of Terracore, said that the NFTs, you don't really have to worry about it up front. As a new person, what you're worried about is upping the stats right up front, and then the NFTs come really in the later portion of the game. So. Gathering says, did you hear in the next Splinterforge update on Monday the timer between fights is going from 30 seconds to 15? That will save me so much time. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that on the list. Yeah, I didn't know, with me, I didn't know how much difference that was going to make. But yeah, it does save you a little bit of time. And yeah, Elysius going on to talk about NFTs. Yeah, NFTs and Golem Overlord, they are coming at some point, but I imagine that there's a fair amount of work behind it. So we'll see when we see. So there's an incentive to actually attack people. Yeah, I'm going to start having to put a few points in Terracore in my damage so I can get some attacks, because this is another big difference. You will, in Terracore, you're attacked right, left, and center. So it's not like this get attacked once in a while. You're just constantly getting attacked. So Alessio says, in Golem Overlord, I've stopped attacking people and reduced the amount of people attacking me by half. Yeah, obviously you attack somebody, they're going to probably attack you back, right? If it's possible. I also noticed in Golem Overlord that once you start raising those scavenger golems above, 34 is kind of the line. I found that once I go 35 up to 40, I start getting attacked a lot more. So, yeah, he says some people take it personally when you attack them, so they always come back at you. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's a thing. To me, I'm not really worried about a person unless they start farming me, right? If they start farming me, then I'm going to take out a bounty on their head. I'm going to find somebody that can farm them, right? But that's just me, right? Listio says, not worth to attack right now since you can lose. Yeah, that's part of why I stopped attacking in Golem Overlord. And he's made some changes since then. It's just I haven't got into the, you can see my power is 8 plus 1. I've went full faith and fortification. And just making what I can make, because I don't have time to sit here all day. I go to work. Sometimes when I'm working from home, I can keep it on a secondary screen and check it out. But on a usual basis, I don't have time to babysit this. So I do keep a timer dedicated to you know, making sure I collect on time, but I do end up getting hit once in a while. Alessio says, I spend like 150 parts per 8 hours just for the repair. Wow. You're playing on a lot bigger basis than what I am then. KGM says 50% go to building golems, 1 to guild and 1 to the bank. Interesting. I think on an average, I claim 32 to 35, and then about 13 to 15 go into rebuilding golems, which I've been sitting at 33 or 34 for a while. So that represents about a third, you know, spending a third on scavenger golems. Gathering says, remember to hit the like button, everyone. Yes, please like this video and subscribe if you want to see more. I'm looking forward to getting over that 250 subscriber mark. So it is 12 o'clock. Does anybody have any last words you want to say, talk about before I call it for this week? I do appreciate everybody stopping by. Please pass my link to my videos around to your friends if they're interested in these games that we're playing. I don't see anybody else speaking up, so I do have a video that I want to make today. And I'm going to look at my secondary account because my secondary account was just invited into the KOMC guild. So I want to increase the strength of my secondary account so that I can, you know, do better in guild brawls as we go along, you know, to benefit the guild. If you're not familiar, Drop Bear Jim, a guy from Australia, I did his show here a while back. Seems like a good guy. He runs he's very heavy in Golem Overlord now. And he plays Magic the Gathering Online as well as very heavy into Splinterlands. So I'm in his guild now with my secondary account. So I'm getting ready to put out a video about, you know, I need to strengthen that account a little bit to be a strong silver account. At this point, I think it's kind of a weak silver account. So Gathering says, we'll make a new video on dual splinter cards combined with burning DEC. Stay tuned later today. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for another great stream. Thanks, guys. Yeah, pay attention to Gathering's channel. He's putting out some good content. We do appreciate you stopping by. And Listios gets the last word. Did you guys get rid of your DECB on the burning? I did. I burned the rest of it. And then I burned a bunch more. Of course, I didn't do like 1 million or whatever, but I burned about $150 US on the whole thing. So, and that's where I'm going to sit. Gathering says only got 10,000 points. Dennis says my login to Terracore is 141 wins, 0 losses. Nice. Sweet. Anyway, guys, thanks for dropping by. I appreciate your time. As always, I will see you on the flip side.